And today we're going to be talking all about the talent shortage and hiring through it, some strategies and just things to know going through this difficult situation for recruiters and talent acquisition professionals. Okay, and so before we begin, I just wanted to introduce both our guests today and Factorial. So, Factorial is an all in one provider of software solutions for people teams. Our software features time and attendance tracking, applicant tracking, performance reviews, and more. We streamline HR processes, giving HR professionals more time to dedicate to what really matters, their employees. So, with that said, I would love for Manzel and Phil to just share quickly a little bit about yourself, what you would love people to know about you. So, Manzel, if you want to go first.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm so used to using Microsoft Teams. So I was wanting to add a little reaction, like in the heart button, but I realized I'm not on that platform today. But hello, everyone. My name is Menzel. People call me Manzi. That's my nickname. But I have been in the workforce for about 10 years. I started in the mortgage industry and customer service and worked my way into the claims industry and claims. And then the past 4 years, I've been working at Southwest Airlines. I started within payroll, and I recently went into talent acquisition about 1 year ago. So I started as an associate recruiter, and I recently became a talent acquisition specialist, supporting all of our recruiters, our resources, and training initiatives. I truly enjoy hiring top talent and also just making an impact and then speaking to you wonderful people today. And a fun fact about me, I have an unhealthy obsession to SpongeBob. I'm actually drinking out of a SpongeBob mug right now. So, but yeah, I'm happy to be here. And I'll hand it off to Phil.
Thanks, Manzel.
Hey everybody, I am Phil over at Fulfillment, and to give you a little bit about some high level background about myself. I've been in the HR recruiting space for a little over 10 years. Converted from corporate recruiting to now business owner. I've been formally a business owner for again close to a year now. Actually, this coming month will be 1 year being on my own, doing my own thing. But I help job seekers and companies to find fulfillment along their journey in business, in their job search, and in life. And it's so great to be here. I am just thrilled and excited to have taken some time out of my day, and also for the audience as well. Just everybody joining in. Now, even listening to the replay, all that kind of stuff. We definitely all appreciate you being here and taking some time to collaborate with us as well. So that's me.
And isn't Phil just phenomenal? No pun intended.
All the puns. No, I do love the puns. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think you have the perfect name to have your own business, Phil. You can do so much with it. It's perfect. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and thanks Phil and Mansell for introducing yourselves. We're really looking forward to this and talking about some crucial conversations here. So to get into this topic, it's something that is, for me as someone who is new to HR and learning a lot about HR, when I hear talent shortage, it's hard to imagine what exactly that means because you think there are so many talented people. But what we're looking at is, for example, a few months ago in March, I think it was about 12 million job openings, while there was only 6 million unemployed people. Not only, that's a lot, but that ratio is something well, impressive, but not in the best way. So, Phil or Manzel, what would you like to say about that? What are you seeing in your experience related to those numbers?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I can start off, Phil, if you don't mind, because
Absolutely.
I am recently am new to talent acquisition. So I kind of started when this new challenge started to happen, but it's definitely the biggest challenge for us within talent acquisition, at least in the corporate side, is definitely, like you mentioned, the labor force participation and just the quit rates. And this is just in general, so it's not based on everyone. But I kind of like to call this kind of like the great reshuffle, as you will, because the hiring rates, they have outpaced, the quit rates since November of 2020. So we have many workers that are quitting their jobs, but many are getting rehired, elsewhere with all the options that are now available compared to where we were just, a couple of years ago. So we now have more jobs than people, which is great because it gives more options for people to find a job, but it also increases the ability to cause, a talent shortage due to the ability to quit a job for something else very, very quickly. This does cause, a challenge for Talent Act because, it costs more money to onboard someone. It costs money to do the drug screen, the background check, the paperwork, just depending on what industry that you are in, training and hiring a candidate. So it definitely costs a lot more to hire someone than it is to retain a candidate. Therefore, the last thing that we want to do is just to have someone quit and spend more money to onboard someone else. Don't get me wrong, we love onboarding more people, but it does break my heart when we do see those new folks leave so quickly. So the biggest challenge for us within talent acquisition, at least on the corporate side, is just acknowledging change and just kind of moving beyond that traditional recruiting that we've been used to for the past, 10 to 15 years or so.
Yeah,
Great. Thanks so much.
I completely
Yeah.
piggyback acknowledging change. I mean, I think that and to piggyback Manziel, the great reshuffle. We hear great resignation, great reshuffle, great realignment, great redesign, great whatever we wanna say it is. There is a shuffle, right? Like a tap dance shuffle going on, and people are like, I'm gonna tap dance to this new opportunity or do all that kind of stuff. I'm very quirky on these lives, so if I get kind of crazy quirky, like
Love
that's
it.
who
I
I
love
am.
it.
But yeah, so but totally, and Menzel brought a really good point up with just like the cost per hire. I mean, with cost of living going up, you also want to think about, yeah, it's gonna take so much more money now just with rates going up and pricing going up just in life, especially on that recruitment selection piece. I mean, I couldn't really tell you specifically how how much percentage like cost of recruiting has gone up generally, but it's increased across the board in, I'd say, almost every single industry. And so hiring managers, recruiting teams, interview panels, folks like that, really have to make change and fine tune while also being cost effective within recruiting. Because at the end of the day, we all want, as companies, we all want to find, identify, hire, and hopefully train the best talent and retain that talent so that we're not having to go through all these turnovers, all this attrition going on, all those kind of things, and then we're back to the drawing board again. Oh my goodness, like we just lost these people, like Menzel said, a couple people going in roles and they're leaving a few months on end because they found a better opportunity. So there are options, and it's been great, especially on LinkedIn and stuff, for so many people getting into new opportunities that will, I'm going to pun intend this one, that are having them be fulfilled right in their next role. But yeah, there are definitely challenges with it, and change is inevitable, as we know. So totally.
Great. Thanks. Thanks to you both. And Menzel, anything that you would want to add to that to what Phil said?
I know Phil was pretty straightforward and straight to the point, because there's so much change that's happened, especially within these last 2 years. But just to being able to network and to finding the right people definitely makes a difference. So
Right. Definitely. And Phil, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the key signs that we're seeing of the talent shortage? We know that it's happening, but like, what are those key signs that we're seeing now?
I mean, I think the biggest one, and we've kind of talked about it, has been the turnover. I mean, I think for me, just I do a lot of, in my business with fulfillment, I've been doing a lot of career coaching, one-on-one coaching lately, just as of recent, and most of, I'm going to kind of break this down into a couple aspects, but I think the biggest thing when it comes to turnover on a job search perspective is you've got job seekers who they've been in positions either for a while, they've been laid off, they've been maybe into a new position, and they're like, you know what, the role or the company just isn't what I thought it was. So all these different scenarios, because we're all unique, we're all different, we're all going through our own paths and our own journeys. But most folks who have reached out to me and have talked to me, they're really just, I don't want to say like they're tired, um, but they are, they're kind of tired and sometimes burned out with what they're doing, or like with how their experience has been at maybe said company, that they're wanting a change, right? They're wanting to pivot either into a new role, a new opportunity, a new department, maybe within the company, or maybe just in a completely different organization or even industry in and of itself, right? So I think when we talk about turnover, it's not just, hey, this person's quitting, but I think it goes beyond, and it also talks about the pivot aspect where job seekers want to have a new opportunity again that's going to bring them fulfillment, but that's also going to like help to bring out their unique value proposition, right? Their value add, and how the value that they're going to bring is going to not only be seen, heard, recognized, and valued and rewarded at their new company. So I think we're seeing a lot of that where they may not feel heard, they may not be seen, they may not be valued at their current job or their current organization. So they want to have that. They want to have that change. I also think another thing we're seeing too within change and pivoting is, Manziel said earlier too, and you as well, the life has changed, right? I mean, going through remote work, hybrid work, things like that, and a lot of job seekers and a lot of folks are wanting to have, flexibility. They're wanting to have opportunities where they may be closer to family. They may want to have opportunities that are going to allow them that reward, but then, that, I'll say it, that kind of work-life balance or work-life harmony, if you want to have some musical puns in there. So that's big. We also kind of talk about, I think the other challenges is even, I've started seeing a little bit of it, is really just like just market competitiveness. And what I mean by that is, again, I kind of go back into cost of living, right? Like um, it's expensive. Like right now, like life is expensive, right? As we know it,
Yeah.
everything's going up, like prices are crazy. And so I think what we're seeing is a lot of job seekers, they're looking at opportunities that are going to pay more money, or they're going to give them more perks or different benefits, or things that are going to make sense to their lifestyle as well. So I think we're seeing some of those as well in addition. So that's what I would say.
Yeah,
Great.
Phil, you definitely bring up a really good point, and just to kind of piggy on that a little bit, because especially with, the prices going up and increasing, we definitely are seeing that, and it's definitely making it, a little difficult just to kind of fill those more of those entry level roles into our pipelines, because we do have a lot of folks that are wanting to get the bigger bang for their buck, so to speak. But especially the market right now has definitely made it difficult. And Phil, you definitely brought a really good point on that.
Great. Thanks both. And something interesting, Phil, that you said that is that competitiveness. Now, I think there's so many factors to consider that maybe a few years ago weren't really in the picture, like remote work or flexibility. And so, Menzel, I wanted to ask you, working at Southwest Airlines, which is a very well-known company, uh, are there any things that you're starting to do, or the company, or even that you see competitors doing that you're offering to really set yourself apart and attract that talent that you really need?
Yeah, that's a good question. So at Southwest Airlines, right now we are doing a number of hiring practices just to kind of improve and attract top talent. We do have, of course, dedicated teams that's focused to building pipelines for future job roles, so we can have a position that does come available. We'll make sure to have enough candidates in our pipelines. But one of the things that we started to do and pivot was we established a employee referral program for our employees specifically, and I'll get to our external folks in just a bit. But at Southwest Airlines, we have what's called the golden rule, which may sound kind of cheesy, but it's by putting employees first and then our customers second, which may sound kind of selfish, but happy employees generate happy customers, and happy customers generate happy employees. And what makes the employees happy is just being able to work with the people that they love. So we have created, a employee referral program for employees to refer their friends, family, or people who they believe their expertise for certain positions will fit really well for. And those referrals, they do receive, communication and upcoming initiatives, as well as other content to become aware of. And we also want our hiring process to be as transparent as possible, because it's a challenge out there. And applying for a new job is, it's scary. It's literally like running a marathon. I think I mentioned that in my last LinkedIn post. But while applying for a new job, it isn't easy, and we want to at least provide the people that are applying with the tools and the training to get to that finish line, so to speak. So we do have, weekly webinars that's open to anyone that registers, just so they can get kind of like an inside scoop of our hiring process, interview tips, and information about upcoming roles. And we also started doing, social media campaigns and marketing efforts. So things that we never really had to do before, since we mainly relied on the company name. However, it has made us more, creative, interacting with our talent pipeline and kind of building those relationships before the initial interview process. um, like Phil mentioned, we are changing, and change can be scary, but it's definitely rewarding. And without these changes, we want to be able to have done these initiatives that we just started rolling out here at Southwest.
Great, Manzel. And Phil, anything that you want to mention related to what Manzel just said?
Yeah, I mean, I want to, on a social perspective, I kind of want to dig a little deeper on that, because I think Menzel makes a really good point. And this is something that um, I'm probably going to bring up later as we continue discussion. But it is one thing to say, hey, we've got this job opportunity available, like kind of that. I kind of like to call it reactionary posting, where it's like, hey, you're going to post an opportunity out there, you're going to get pickup, you're going to, see who is interested, like that kind of thing. But then you've got, I think, proactive social, where you're actually talking about, like Manzel had said, and I wrote this down. That's why you see my head going all over the place. I'm writing notes, all that kind of stuff. I write notes with pencil on everything.
I love
Social
it.
media
Old school.
efforts, campaigns, yeah, all that stuff. And talking about, employees first, customers second, like that's Southwest's, initiative. Like that's one of their values. That's what they practice. And so I think socially being able to, because I've seen what Southwest is doing. Right? I've done the research, I've looked, but actually seeing how socially they're promoting that initiative, but also through their employees. So Manzel's really good. Not to give Manzel a little bit of a shout out here, but Manzel's content on LinkedIn really practices what the Southwest brand preaches, and I see it all the time. And so that's an attractive element, as a job seeker potentially looking at to working with them. So that's important. Employer branding, talent branding, social. I mean, that's where things are going, especially during the
Hmm.
pandemic, when we've had to be remote, in our homes, or in locations where we've had to job search, or we've had to work and recruit or do other things like that. We've had to really, I'll say it, we've had to quasi rely on technology and other aspects of social media and digital platforms, like this, where we're coming to you live, to really build community and to build relationships. And so I think messaging is important, but then also practicing what you preach is important, but then also showing your customer base, employees, job seekers, clients, customers, etc., how you are uniquely different in the marketplace as a business, as a product, as a service entity, to attract the right customers or job seekers to your brand. So
Great, Phil, thanks. And how you mentioned how things have been changing because of COVID is something that I think is having a big impact. And I wanted to say another thing that we're really seeing is that so many people are leaving the workforce, and I think that's something that's, well, it is something that's really contributing. In fact, every day in the US, 10,000 people turn 65, so that means that many people are retiring, and that leads to something that we're calling the skills gap. So would either one of you like to talk about that a little bit and talk about what that means for companies?
Yeah, that's a good question, especially with the skills gap piece. And then maybe kind of going maybe a little off topic, but I do know, especially with the skills gap piece, because we need to, I think right now we're kind of focusing on traditional recruiting, and we need to kind of look beyond that. The corporate world, the corporate world has kind of had that traditional mindset, which, of course it's not a bad thing. It's always had that more, conservative approach where you need to have this amount of experience, this amount of years, or look a certain way, or tie your hair up a certain way, or have a college degree just to kind of get that 9 to 5 job, which is still great to have and to have most of those things. However, it's not as required anymore like it used to. Because as you mentioned earlier, every day in the US, 10,000 people, turn 65, and more of those folks are going to retire soon. So kind of leaving the workforce for the new generation. And in this new generation, the world is, it's now more diverse than ever, and it's also more flexible than ever with working remote during the pandemic, for those that were able to, of course. And I hope that I can phrase this the right way, but 20 to 30 years ago, anytime you looked at, the board of directors or a senior leadership board, everyone was either, the same skin tone or the same sex. And it's not like that anymore, which is a beautiful thing. And I'm not saying that's not a bad thing either, but based on numbers, we have more minorities than non-minorities in the workforce. Therefore, diversity needs to be reflected in leadership as well. The last 2 years, we witnessed, a pandemic, racial injustice, and just unfair practices that definitely changed the world. So now that the world has changed, our recruiting has to change, talent acquisition has to change. It is more than just the competitive salary. Well, maybe not as much because everything's going up right now. So that is still looked at a lot, but it's more than just the company brand on the uniform now. It's more than just having that corporate card. You know, um, New hires are new people, or people out there, they want an employer that has diversity, that has culture, where they feel that they belong, that they need to, and that needs to be reflected in our hiring efforts. That is what this new generation, is looking for. And I know that can make some people feel, uncomfortable. But again, the world is changing and we have to adapt to that. Um, Typical recruiting is not necessarily set up to succeed in this new world of talent. We are still asking recruiters to think transactionally, which we shouldn't think like that all the time, because the future, it's about building relationships, rather than just a transaction. So it's not always about, the years of experience, but does this person have the heart? Does this person have the passion, the drive? And employers, they need to realize that candidates have the ability to do many things outside of the corporate world, such as, social media. So the way that we work has dramatically changed over the past 2 years, and it's not going to disappear. So as an employer, we definitely need to adapt to that just so we can close that gap.
Yeah. And I said this earlier on a post this morning, right? Like, you said, transformation transaction, right? Like the relationships, if it's a transaction, it's kind of like, I don't want to say like it's cutthroat, cut and dry, but it sure seems that way, right? As a recruiter, as a job seeker, as a employee, like as a person. And so really bringing that that change to, like you said, to Manziel, really transforming the relationship, between two people, right? How can I help you, or help me to help you, kind of thing, regardless of a person's lifestyle, of their background, where they've come from. I mean, we're all different, we're all unique, which is so brilliant. And I think the action of diversity, equity, inclusion, you know diversity of class, diversity of thought, diversity of life, I mean, it's incredible. And there was a comment earlier, I think I saw it, where um, that I wish I've got to find it. It was incredible. It was employees, people can really be hired anywhere. I think it was something like that,
Mm.
which is absolutely true. It's incredible. And
Hmm.
everybody is in everybody's in a different walk of life, and we're all doing our own thing, but at the same time, we're not in this alone. And I think a lot of times when we are like job searching, or even if we are trying to identify talent, sometimes we think, oh, we are alone, like we're doing this ourselves. I've had many thoughts as an entrepreneur recently, recent entrepreneur myself, where I've been like, man, I am doing this alone, like I feel defeated. But I'm like, you know what? No, it's this community. This community is the reason why I did it, why I started my own thing, and it's helped me tremendously. And I think it's a lot more companies, I feel and think, need to be more like that. To understand, well, there is, behind every resume, behind every LinkedIn profile, what have you, there is a person behind that. There's a
Hmm.
human who is looking to seek work, to find an opportunity. And so I think the more that companies can see that in a transformative lens, to say, hey, it's people hiring people,
Hmm.
right? And we want to make that experience as human as possible. And I say the word human, like, with my heart and my soul, because it is truly all about that transformation, making it as humanized as possible for those people. Because it's hard for everybody right now. Like, we're all going through something. We all are. And so the more we can humanize relationships and transform relationships in that way, with empathy, with grace, with compassion, with integrity, which is my number one core value, um, we it will transform the workforce, and it will transform how we hire and how we select talent, and retain that talent and value that talent, and fulfill that talent. So, sorry, from the heart.
Great, Phil.
So, now, Phil, you
Manziel.
you got me in the heart too as well, because even though with this talent shortage going on, it is unfortunate from the employer's perspective, but we need something to happen just so we can humanize the way that we do things. Because especially working in the corporate industry for the last 10 years, we rely on processes. There's steps to everything, which, I get it because we need processes just to make sure we are organized, make things align, and everything is numbers driven. So we have to be able to look at data to see, hey, are we succeeding, but are we not succeeding? But behind every number, there is a person, and that person is someone's mother, father, daughter, child, anyone. And we just seem to kind of forget the human aspect behind the quote unquote employer. So, um, but no, I wish I was able to like take what you said and like put that on, I don't know, my LinkedIn page or
I got
something
goosebumps
because
over here, man. So you're making me feel. I mean, that's when I get like, like. I mean, I feel it. So all the chills and feels over here. So,
sending you all the like reactions if I could.
Yeah.
and the love, yeah, I love.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think that's something really interesting, Phil, that you mentioned. That like now, well, I think now more than well, it's always important to have those relationships and not just be a transaction, and to really form those relationships. And something that you said before about how we can, and people said in the comments as well, like you can work with anyone anywhere now, and it's just so amazing to have that experience. At one of our last events, we were talking about agile leadership, and that's something that one of our guests was talking about, how the possibilities now are endless. And I think that's something really amazing, not just for opportunities, but for opportunities to form relationships, whether it's professional or whatever. I think it's a really amazing opportunity. And well, so I feel like you guys are answering a lot of my questions. I don't even have I don't even have to be here. But
Stop it.
what I wanted to also mention, and this is something that we have kind of already touched on, but the employee experience. So going from it not really being just completely transactional and really focusing on that employee experience. What are some things that should change or need to change when it comes to that? And Manzel or Phil, if you want to answer, both of you.
You want to go first?
Yeah, you may have to repeat that. I was having
Yeah,
some tech
it's
issues, so
okay.
I didn't hear
Don't
that
worry.
first part. I'm
It's
Yep.
sorry.
okay.
Yay,
Yeah,
technology.
so the employee experience, I think, is something that we're really, uh, as we've been mentioning, it's something that's really important because it's, well, it's our work is part of a large part of our job. We need to be happy. We need to have a good experience. So,
Mhm.
Manzel or Phil, now I forget my question. How can we prioritize the employee experience? What can be done or what needs to be done to really focus on that employee experience?
That's a good question, and it all comes down to focusing on your employees and putting your employees first. I'm a big advocator to surveys and feedback, and I think a lot of companies, whenever they send out a survey for feedback, they don't put enough like importance or emphasis on it. But there are some companies where they put out a survey and they don't put any action to it. There's no action plan to show, hey, this is what we're going to get done. We saw your feedback and this is what
Mhm.
we are going to do. So I feel just to improve that employee experience whenever there is an issue or whenever there is a problem, and if that employee takes the time and it takes the energy to go up to a leader to be like, hey, I'm noticing this. Is there something that
Mhm.
we can do about it? Just take the time to either acknowledge it, or even if you can't acknowledge it, just be like, hey, there's an action plan that's going to be in place, or don't say this is what I can't do, but this is what, we can do. At Southwest Airlines, we are a government contractor, so there are a lot of things that we just have to abide by. One of the recent things with the pandemic was, the mask mandate. Everyone saw the YouTube videos, everyone saw, people had different reactions, but, you know, we were obligated to abide by those rules. And we received a lot of, opinions on that. But one of the biggest things that I always advocate for is just to be transparent, especially with leadership. That's one of the things that I speak highly of with Southwest now, because of course you're not going to be able to make everyone happy. But like Phil mentioned, just provide that human approach. Be transparent to the people that you are speaking with, because we're not going to be able to please everyone. But if you tell people, this is what we are putting into place, this is why we are doing X, Y, and Z, and just making people feel valued, or just making people feel heard. And I know that can be kind of difficult because, number one, we're super busy with our work. We're super busy with what's going on in our personal lives, especially now with everything going on. But just taking the time just to recognize one another. And one of the things that we do here at Southwest is we're super cheesy. The extra cheese, the better, I like to say. So anything as simple as just a positive email or something like that, or just a simple thank you, really, really, really does go a long way. But the biggest thing is just to show acknowledgement that, employees are being heard, or even if they can't fix the answer right then and there, at least,
Mhm.
acknowledge it. um, I feel like I kind of rambled. I'm sorry.
No, no, it was great. It
Mhm.
was great. And I completely agree with the cheesiness. I think it's great.
Mhm.
And I think that's another thing that's changing. Maybe before, the way that you write emails or the way that you interact with people that's all changing. So maybe before it was like, oh, no exclamation marks in the email, but now, it's whatever you want to do, whatever is your style, and whatever is the best way to communicate professionally with
Mhm.
other people. I think it's great to see that things are changing, and we can be human at work.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm a big
Mhm.
advocator for memes. Of course, I would not send that to my senior director, depending
Yeah.
on what the situation is, but I definitely agree with
Right.
that.
Hey, if they like them,
Great.
do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're like memes, please send them my way. Yeah, let's do it. I with Manziel, I mean, I've got to piggyback. I bring about integrity, and I really feel, just in my opinion, integrity is really what is needed. One of the biggest things that is needed within the employee and candidate experience. And I put in the comments, my own definition of integrity, so people know. Integrity is transparency, communication, which we've talked about, follow through, execution, action, right, and kindness. Um, Completely at the end of the day. And a couple of comments here that have been really good, like a couple of folks talking about action. Not making promises or guarantees that you can't keep completely. Like, it- you know, do what you say you'll do, and you said you'd do it. Like the definition of integrity. And I think when it comes to those experiences, doing those surveys, like Manziel said, is absolutely critical. Getting feedback from your employees, whether it is through a survey, whether it is through a one-on-one, discussion with an employee or so, whether it is through email, however they want to be communicated, and listening to that feedback, and bringing that to leadership, because leadership in organizations, they have to know what is going on with their employee base, right? How are their employees feeling at said company? How are they performing, right? Do they have things going on that personally that's maybe hindering their performance, right? Like, is there something going on there? So that's why we've got to really bring some of that in with empathy, and taking action on it 1000%. If we're just doing surveys and we're just listening and we're not acting, or we're not transforming, right, the relationship, then what's the point? Um, so totally.
And I think that's something really important that both of you have said, that it's not just the surveys and the feedback, it's about something happening afterward, not
Hmm.
just saying what you're
Mhm.
feeling or what you don't like or what you like, but seeing action afterward is
Yep.
what makes the difference. And I really like that.
Ooh,
Um,
and I'm sorry to interrupt. And another comment too that popped my eye too is, it's free to say thank you. Like, absolutely. Like, if
mhm,
you're getting that feedback, or if somebody is doing a stellar job in their role, or anything, right? Like, if you're listening to them, like, do say thank you, or, I hear you, I understand
Hmm.
you, and I appreciate you. Like, because it is free to say those two words, and it is free to give that recognition, in that regard, because we want to be heard, and people want to be seen and valued. And if they have an idea that's innovative, then, you know recognize that, and say thank you for that. Absolutely.
mhm.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I had
it
to.
makes
No,
a
fine.
huge. So I'm going to add into that. So it really does make a huge difference, because you never know what someone is going through on that particular day, and that thank you literally does go a long way. Sometimes I say thank you at the most awkward moments, because I say it like so much, it's ingrained in my head right now, but it really does make a huge difference.
Like, or saying it like a question, like, thank you. Oh, yeah, yeah, thank you, Mansell. Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's happened a couple of times.
Yeah.
Once I started this new role, I've been facilitating a lot, and I've made lots of awkward, funny moments.
Like, wait, what? I said that?
Oh, I love it. Well, so like you said, Phil, we have so many like great comments coming through. So I think
Yeah.
it will be good to really put a lot of time into that as well. So before we get into the questions that a lot of people are sending, or just the comments in general that people are
Yeah.
sending that are
They're
really
fantastic. Mhm.
interesting, I just wanted to ask you, both of you as individuals and professionals, how can people be more creative or agile when it comes to facing today's challenges of talent acquisition? So maybe the talent shortage or other challenges. What can professionals do to be more agile and creative?
Um, my biggest advice, it's kind of more individual than professional, but
Yeah.
um, just to be vulnerable when it comes to facing today's challenges. Like Phil mentioned, everyone has their own story, and we are all different and unique. However, we're all connected in some way, shape, or form. And that one way you can connect with people is just through being vulnerable, being honest, and you do not have to be you do not have to be and do not be afraid to showcase, your emotion. Just do it in a very constructive way.
Mhm.
But I've been clean and sober for almost 4 years, and before that, I was hiding behind this corporate shield of what I thought
Mhm.
employers wanted me to be. And it wasn't until I started at a company, that values me where I'm finally able to be myself. And it's
Mhm.
unfortunate that a lot of people aren't able to embrace that. But I guess my advice to talent acquisition is just to, take a chance to those that have that passion and have that fire, and not just focus on those with the credentials. But don't get me wrong, though, because credentials are important. We wouldn't want a pilot hired on with zero experience. But take a chance on people. The ones that do surprise you are the ones that actually reach out to you first rather than the ones that you are actually scouting for. But I
Yeah,
guess that's my
yeah, I
two
think
cents.
that's really, I think, great advice. Great,
Yeah.
Menzel, thank you. And Phil, what would you like
Yeah,
to say?
and be open-minded. I think kind of going away from like the if and the thens, like, oh, if they have this degree, you know, great, let's talk to them. Or, I mean, obviously it depends, right? Just like you said, if you don't want to have a pilot who doesn't have the training, the experience, that kind of thing. But I think kind of being open-minded, because there are passionate people out on LinkedIn, clients of mine I'm working with personally, professionally, and just there's so many people who have drive, who have passion, who, they really want to make a difference in that, into that next career. So I think when in regards to talent act, just being open-minded to those individuals, because yeah, I mean, I study music in college. I went and I did music. I don't even have a business degree, and here I am at you like as a full-time entrepreneur, business owner, HR person. I pivoted so many different times to get to this point, but a lot of it for me was because folks took a chance on me in the beginning of my career in HR, my very first manager, who I still talk to today, but then other people, other, coaches of mine, other mentors, those folks have helped me to get to the point I am today. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for folks like you, like listening and watching and supporting me in my story. And so I think there needs to be a lot more of that in terms of a talent acquisition perspective, like understanding people's stories and their needs and really what is going to bring them fulfillment, for sure. And the vulnerability aspect of it for sure. And share your story completely. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Well, thank you both. Yeah, sorry, Menzel, go ahead.
I know. I think I was just going to add the pandemic and the past couple of years have definitely it's been rough. And I definitely want to say the one good thing that did come from it was just people being more open, especially with the power of LinkedIn. It was all about, business and posting job openings, but now you see posts about people providing their achievements and this showing all their wins, and everyone is encouraging one another. So the power of social media and just, being vocal and just being open, it definitely does make a difference. And you never know how much of an impact you are making on someone.
Hmm.
That's so true.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so
Mm.
much. And I'm starting to go through these amazing comments and kind of figure out how we can answer and go through these and share them with everyone who's watching.
I'm gonna
So
ask a silly question. Am I
yeah,
able to type in the chat? I
yeah.
just saw the chat just now. That was my silly moment of the day. So I wanted to be like react to some of them, but I didn't know how. But thank you, everyone.
I think you can send a message. I don't know if you. Well, I know Phil knows a lot about this.
So I'm on,
Maybe.
yeah. So I'm actually on the LinkedIn event. Like I have another tab
Oh,
open. Yeah.
gotcha.
So I'm actually like tuning into
Okay.
the event on mute double
Yeah.
checking
Okay.
us. That's
For those that
So
don't know,
you
I'm a
could,
beginner with this, so
no,
I'm
you're
like
fine.
yeah.
learning all these
No, you're
things
good.
today.
And
You're great.
I'm just bad at multitasking. So I'm on one screen.
Yeah. It's like, hey,
Because
which one do I go to?
if I yeah, exactly. So it looks like, well, we had a lot of people from all over the world really, which is really cool. So we had people from England, from the US, from well, there were some other, I think someone said, maybe I think it was
I
Dominican
believe you.
Republic, or I don't know. We have people, Brazil, so that's really really cool. Pakistan as well. So really great to see so many people coming in. That's what we were saying before. We can reach so many people from all over the world
Mhm.
and it's amazing. So going to one question that I see here, what are some of the and this is from Christian. I'm going to say this last name wrong. Christian Orihuela. What are some of the common reasons why new hires quit so quickly outside of being able to find something else? So we are seeing high turnover rate in like the first 3, 4, 6 months. What are those reasons? If either of you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think one of the things it kind of falls on the it can kind of fall on the recruiter because I know especially right now we are hiring well we're trying to hire at such a rapid pace and I think from a talent acquisition standpoint we need to do a better job with kind of defining the the job duties and the responsibilities depending on the roles that we are hiring for, especially for our labor intensive positions. And we also have a lot of positions where you have to be really flexible with your schedule. And when people think of you have to be flexible with your schedule, they may think of, oh, I can be able to do that. But are you able to work, overnights? Are you able to do pick up additional hours, things like that? It's definitely a tough world out there, especially at least in the aviation industry. So I guess I can only speak from that aspect. But from a recruiter standpoint, we just need to do a better job of just being more transparent in the interview process and even with our job descriptions as well, just so we can do a better job providing a more transparent picture of the position that you are looking for. I know right
Mhm.
now we are putting plans in place just to make more kind of do like day in the life videos for certain positions, just so people can get a good idea of what they are, applying for. Because we definitely see that. We see the high turnover rate, and it breaks my heart, unfortunately, because we want our cohorts or employees. So at Southwest, we call each other cohorts. Again, we're cheesy, but because we want our folks to stay and be a part of that family. But um, again, since there are so many opportunities that are around us, it's really easy for someone to apply for another position if they feel that the position that they are in may not work for them at that moment. I guess my biggest advice is to try to stick with it because we do have a lot of folks that they may think to themselves, I don't know if I can do this. And then after 30 days, they leave. But it's kind of similar to my sobriety story. I didn't think I was going to make it the first 90 days, but then after that 90-day hump, it was smooth sailing. So just giving it, just giving a company a chance before making that initial decision. But I do know it's a little bit harder since there are so many jobs out there. So it's so easy just to leave that one job and go to another one.
Hmm. Yeah, I like what you say, Menzel. Like on one side, on the employer side, the transparency, and then on the employee side, just seeing it out, seeing things through, and really giving something a chance. Yeah. And Phil, anything that you would add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talk about, or when Menzel talk about, being transparent on the company side, as far as kind of the job description, I think it's important. Um, and there was a comment that just came in, like 30, 60, 90-day reviews with supervisor. Yeah, like expectations is key. And I think, the clearer that a company can lay out, lay the land out in the interview process, right, on a particular role, on the job description, those things, and make it really as clear as possible for those job seekers to understand like what the role is, what they need now, and then, where that role will go in the future. So we're talking about kind of the workforce planning perspective. I think that will help a lot. Succession planning is something I've done in the past, and I think when it comes to like training and really, you know, and I'll just say this just based on my experience that I've had, most job seekers who have reached out to me who have wanted some help and guidance on coaching, I'd probably say 90% of them, maybe if not all of them, have said, I want to get into an opportunity where I can grow, right? I can have growth, stability, and I can be at a company that will, provide that for me, that will help me to grow to that next level. So I think a lot of times, um, when employees feel, or when people feel stagnation, in their career, they feel like those companies aren't giving them that opportunity to grow, or that clear direction as, hey, here's where the role's going to go. Then I think that's why we're seeing a lot of this turnover. And like Manziel said, the opportunities out there, for folks to go to other roles and stuff is absolutely still there in this market. And so I think when people, get into stuff, they're like, oh wait, well, there's this other opportunity out there. They want to have that. So I kind of piggyback Menzel as well. Give yourself the time in a new role, give yourself the grace as well. And be open-minded when you get in there, because onboarding and transition, it's hard. Change is hard, as Manziel said earlier. But I think if you can really give yourself that grace and that space, absolutely, it will fare you well. So totally.
Great, thanks. And I saw one comment as I was just scrolling through. There are so many great ones, and I feel like we might not get to
No, there are.
everything, but
Yeah, I see a couple
and
now.
yeah,
I'll have to go
and
back.
one
I'll have to
thing
go back after and see them all. So
exactly. And also I encourage anyone who's watching, if for some reason your question is not answered, or if you think of another question, feel free to reach out to Phil or Manzel, or I'm sure they'll look at the comments after. So, but feel free if you have any questions. I'm sure they would love to answer and talk about this a little bit more. One thing that I saw that was interesting was someone said about the referral program, Manzel, that you mentioned about Southwest Airlines. That kind of holds a mirror. I don't know who it was. It says, it doesn't say a name, but it holds a mirror to the organization, because no one wants to refer someone if they don't like where they work. So it's like, that is a great way to show that people are proud to work there. And I think that's really an interesting point to make. Um, let's see if there's another question. Let's see. Um, okay, so someone mentioned, I feel like there are so many people looking for work, myself included. Is it a lack of talent or a lack of experience? And she said, this is Lauren McDonald, so hopefully she's still watching. She said she's trying to break into the corporate world after 15 years in education. So what do you guys think? A lack of experience or a lack of talent?
That's a good question, because I know, because I've interviewed a lot of teachers and educators, and they are such a pleasure to speak with. My sister is actually an educator, and she's actually trying to get into the airline industry as well. It's not necessarily lack of experience or lack of talent, it does depend on the job that you are applying for, especially for those corporate roles. Because I'll be completely transparent, a lot of our corporate positions, they are definitely very, very competitive. And we look beyond the experience. We do look for that talent and that passion. And if they have that, do they have our values ingrained within them? But there are certain positions where we do look at that experience, expertise. And one of the things that I like to preach is sometimes you may need to take, one step back and two steps forward. So maybe you want to get into that corporate position, but maybe you can try, um, either a frontline position or a entry level position. At a lot of companies, we are really, really big from promoting from within. And that's one of the things that we advocate for. Again, we want to retain our employees. And a lot of our employees, they move up to those, corporate positions that they are aiming for. But I definitely do know it's hard, especially for those corporate roles where it can get it can get very, very competitive. And that's one of the things where we may have to look at their experience of what they've done before when we are trying to go through those resume reviews. But I'm a firm believer that time is of the essence, and maybe that position is just not for you, which may sound cliche because social media is amazing, but we do live in a world where everyone's posting their promotions or they just got a new job, and we want to be that person, but we also don't know how long it took for that person to get there. We just don't, a lot of people just don't post their struggles,
Hmm.
um, but but it's not you, whoever who wrote that comment. Definitely still continue to apply. Um, this a lot certain positions they do get pretty competitive. Hope that answered that person's
Thanks,
question.
Manzel. Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. Well, there are so many great comments and questions that I'm not even exaggerating. And I looked on LinkedIn just to see the live, and I think last time I checked, like 20 minutes ago, it was like 120 comments. Or we have 124 comments, which is amazing. So, just for the sake of time, I would love for Phil and Manzel, if after this event, if you want to go through some of those questions that maybe we have missed, which I think we missed some, but with time not on our not on our side, if you would love to go through those comments and maybe feel free to answer some of them after the event if you have time, that would be great. And like I said, I think someone mentioned how can we reach out to Manzel and Phil. I'm sure they would be happy to connect with you. So feel free to do that and check out their profiles on LinkedIn. You will feel inspired, that's for sure. Well, Phil and Manzel, anything that you want to add before we finish today or before we stop the live?
I don't have anything, but thank you so much for this opportunity. I'll be completely transparent. I never done one of these before, so I will admit I was definitely a little nervous before coming on, but I truly enjoy this opportunity and collaborating with each and every one of you, especially you, Phil. You are amazing. And if I have the opportunity to do this again, I will know how to work the chat feature because I am testing it right now.
Perfect. Yeah, after one time, it's, you're an expert.
Yeah.
And
No.
Phil,
Yeah.
anything you want to add before we go?
Yeah. Right back at you, Menzel. I mean, I appreciate, your energy and your support and just just the time and the space and the energy, I think, just to really be here, to learn and collaborate from you, from folks in the audience listening. Thank you all for taking time just to be here today with us. I mean, we know time is very valuable, and so we appreciate it. And yeah, it's just been fantastic. And I'd say really the best thing, that I could kind of leave folks here with is, just don't quit, don't give up, and keep on going, and definitely connect, with us here, us three. We're definitely here, to help and to support. So
Great. Thank you so much to you both. And thanks everyone for watching. And feel free to connect with both of these amazing people here today. And see you next time. Thanks, guys. See
Bye,
you.
friends.
I